And
I think it's more important to make headway in our own house. By the time the system comes into play, the damage is done. They're not locking up 7-year-olds.
I know, you know, we all know what it is when a hot comb hits your hair on a Sunday morning, what it smells like. That's a cultural difference, not just a color difference.
Denzel Washington's comments on racism in the entertainment industry and how black actors are used to make way for white ones are once again stirring up controversy because Denzel is one of the rare actors who refuses to see himself as a victim of the system. Despite facing discrimination from Hollywood higher-ups, Denzel refused to accept this as an excuse for not trying to excel, and now he has set his mind to expose all that goes on behind the scenes and how several black actors have been taken out so that white ones could take their place. So what exactly did Denzel say about racism in Hollywood? Let's get into it.
My parents sent me in another direction. They didn't have anybody to help them, and they kept doing what they was doing, and the system got them. So I don't, the system is rigged, but why? All the more reason not to help it.
Few celebrities are as fearless as Denzel Washington when it comes to exposing Hollywood hypocrisy. A lot of actors will blame the system for their lack of success and then turn around and accept degrading roles for a check. But Denzel, on the other hand, is a man of principle, and he's proven time and time again that working hard and staying true to what you believe in pays off. And now he's revealing how he could have been even more successful if only the Hollywood elites cared about black artists and other artists of color. Denzel actually lost many leading roles because film studios thought a white actor would be more marketable. Back in 2014, Denzel found himself at the center of the Sony email hack scandal when an unidentified hacker leaked confidential information from the film studio Sony Pictures Entertainment. And in one leaked email thread between an unnamed producer and Sony chairman Michael Linton, which was sent shortly after Sony released Denzel's film The Equalizer, the producers suggested that Sony should avoid casting black actors to appeal to an international market. Despite the fact that The Equalizer grossed over $190 million worldwide, with almost 50% of its ticket sales coming from outside of the US, the Sony producer suggested that the overseas sales would have been even higher if the lead role was played by a white actor. I believe that the international motion picture audience is racist. In general, pictures with an African-American lead don't play well overseas, the producer wrote. But despite facing discrimination from studios, Denzel refused to accept roles that he felt were degrading and intended to exploit black pain.
I got a part in a movie in 1986. I called it The Nigga They Couldn't Kill. Oh. Yeah, he was supposed to be, he raped a white woman, and they tried to electrocute him, but it didn't work. They tried to hang him, and they tried to do all this stuff, and there were some Jewish people in the audition, and I said, yeah. They said, no, it's funny. It's like they hang them and then they can't. I said, yeah, like you bring some Jewish people into a room and they think it's a shower, but it's gas. Oh. And they said, right. I said, right. That ain't funny. So to me, it wasn't funny about putting a rope around my MFing neck either. I made a point. The guy was like, who the hell is this little nigga coming in talking like this?
By the way, this is something that Dave Chappelle also talked about shortly after he turned down a $50 million contract from Comedy Central and escaped to Africa. Following his return from Africa, Dave made an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show and clarified that he didn't turn down the money, but rather specific terms associated with the lucrative contract. Dave elaborated on his decision to decline the contract, citing examples of how entertainers were treated before reaching higher levels of fame.
Okay. When you say you heard the stories, what do you mean? What stories?
I mean, you see it before. Look, Mariah Carey made a $100 million deal, and 3 months later, she's all of a sudden mysteriously crazy. Or Martin Lawrence punches through, and he's waving a gun on the street screaming, "They're trying to kill me."
Yeah. Yeah, we hear those stories.
And it always happens around the time of their career where it seems as though they're crossing over the next plateau.
But when Oprah pressed Dave to reveal the precise nature of the requests he received, he revealed that he was urged to produce sketches that he felt were deemed socially irresponsible. Dave explained that he had a strong feeling that these sketches were designed to make people laugh at him rather than with him.
Sounds like somebody's trying to put young Dave in a compromising position. Oprah.
Dave also claimed that he was pressured to wear a dress for one movie, and this is something Cat Williams also talked about shortly after Kevin Hart wore a dress for an SNL skit. Now, as for Denzel, he also had similar experiences where he was asked to do degrading things for roles. However, Denzel stuck to his principles while also refusing to let the media portray him as a victim. However, this attitude landed Denzel in hot water with the mainstream media, and they accused him of being simply ignorant because he refused to victimize himself. Back in 2017, Denzel sparked backlash backlash after he insisted that the prison system is not the main reason behind high rates of crime among Black communities, and he claimed the most important system is healthy family dynamics.
The legal system, do you think we've made any headway in the
I
legal
think it's more important to make headway in our own house. By the time the system comes into play, the damage is done. They're not locking up 7-year-olds. Said little Yummies, look up, Google Lil Yummy. Lil Yummy was an 11-year-old murderer.
Wow.
And you look at his picture, you'll see the headshot of him, and he's like this. And he got murdered at 11 by a 14-year-old.
Wow.
Who's doing life now, and a 16-year-old.
That makes no sense.
You blame the system? Where was his father? It starts in the house. It starts in the home. And yeah, well, my father got locked up. Well, where was his father?
Denzel also credited his gentle father for keeping him on the right track, and he said that despite his parents separating, his father stayed in his life and set a good example for him.
Like I did talk about my 3 closest friends, and they did, 15 to 25, one did 28, this and that. I was the only one of the 3 that had a father in my life, even though my parents were together. But I still had a father who was a gentle man and a good example, and they didn't.
And while Denzel acknowledged that the system is rigged, he also said that this is not an excuse to give up on your children and perpetuate a cycle of violence.
We can blame the system if we want, but they didn't lock any of us up at 7.
Yeah.
We were all doing enough to get locked up at 13. My parents sent me in another direction. They didn't have anybody to help them, and they kept doing what they was doing, and the system got them. So I don't, the system is rigged, but why? All the more reason not to help it.
However, a lot of people slammed Denzel, claiming that his comments about the prison system were disappointing and problematic. And despite the backlash, Denzel doubled down on his comments in an interview with the New York Daily News and again insisted that the positive changes start at home. It starts with how you raise your children. If a young man doesn't have a father figure, he'll go find a father figure, Denzel said. So I can't blame the system. It's unfortunate that we make such easy work for them. And then when he was promoting the Oscar-winning drama Fences, Denzel again refused to let the reporter drag him into the narrative about racial discrimination.
Was it caused by racial discrimination? And is that the effect of racial discrimination on people?
Here's the thing you got to remember. When you talk about racial and you talk about discrimination, what if he just wasn't good enough? See, it's so easy to just say, oh, it's because of this. It's because of racism. Oh, I didn't get the job because of that. Maybe you weren't good enough. Maybe, like his wife says, you were just too old. She says, why don't you just admit it? You were too old. He's the one that's hung up on,
The reporter insisted that racial discrimination is still a huge issue. However, Denzel implied that the media is trying to make it as if it's the only issue that there is.
Don't you think it is the problem is the racial discrimination?
The right word is not is, was.
Was.
And that's not the only problem. That's one of the problems. Now, you can make it the only one if you'd like, but it's not the only one. But that's a fact.
You said was. You mean, is it better now? An African American doesn't face these obstacles?
We're sitting in the Four Seasons talking about a movie. We wouldn't be doing this in 1957 unless my name was Poitier. There was only one person then. But yeah, so things are better, no question.
About a year later, Denzel appeared on The Hollywood Reporter's Oscar Directors Roundtable alongside Mel Gibson and other Oscar-winning directors. And when Denzel was asked what his worst job was before he became an actor, he quickly shut down this narrative about acting being harder or more meaningful than other jobs.
Send your son to Iraq. That's difficult. It's just a movie. It's like, relax. I don't play that precious nonsense. Oh, move over. Get out of here. Your son got shot in the face. That's difficult. Making a movie is a luxury. It's a gift. It's an opportunity, and most importantly, it's a gift. Obviously, everybody here is talented enough to do that, but don't get it twisted. It's just a movie. It ain't that big a deal.
Denzel explained that despite the rigged system, focusing on anger and resentment will do nothing. It will solve nothing, and instead, the focus should be given on making the best out of the opportunities that you are given.
Because when you read, for instance, Obama's Audacity of Hope, he highlighted this issue. He said, I understand the Black American anger that he's not giving the same opportunities. Because if they were giving the opportunities, they would achieve much more. Do you agree with him?
I agree, he has the right to say that. One might use the word anger, someone might use the word opportunity. You know, what are you going to do? Is the point. We all have reasons, or we might feel righteous reasons to be angry. But the point is, what are you going to do about it?
Throughout the years, Denzel continued to call out Hollywood for its hypocrisy, but he said the only thing that actors of color can do is just push and keep talking about how the system is rigged. When he was asked to comment on the Oscars' lack of diversity in an interview on 60 Minutes, Denzel said, "I've lived it. I've been the guy at the Oscars without my name being called when everybody thought that they were going to call my name and they didn't." And when asked if he thinks that the system is unfair, Denzel said, "Yeah, and so what? You gonna give up? If you're looking for an excuse, you'll find one. You can find it wherever you like. Can't live like that. Just do the best that you can do." Meanwhile, reports also emerged earlier this year that Denzel turned down a role in the Disney-owned Marvel Universe movie, and according to one outlet, Denzel thought that the storyline was too woke. So as you can see, Denzel definitely stands out when it comes to voicing his opinions on racism in Hollywood, and fans are saying that he's a rare example of an actor who speaks his mind instead of parroting the Hollywood slogans. This makes Denzel an even bigger star and role model in my book, one fan said. Morality and integrity are rare qualities in Hollywood elite. Our younger generation needs someone to look up to and learn from like Denzel. And another fan wrote, "I have so much respect for Denzel Washington. He has earned everyone's respect for his views among the out-of-reality Hollywood." But how about you? Do you agree with Denzel's comments on race in Hollywood? Comment down below and don't miss out on this next video.